So Kenjon Barner, I am so excited to be talking to you today. The first question I have for you is tell me everything about this new podcast with Jonathan Stewart. It sounds like it's going to be amazing.
It's going to be amazing. It is amazing. We've already actually shot our first episode. It was beautifully done, well worked. Me and Stu, we did our thing. I don't know if the guest is out yet, so I won't expose it just yet. But no, it's a special guest. But the podcast in general, man, it gives the Oregon fan base an opportunity to reconnect with the past and connect the past with the present with the future. It gets the opportunity to highlight and what they do for the athletes there on campus. So it's huge. I think it's really important. It's honestly the first of its kind. So me and Stu super excited about this and being able to give Oregon and Oregon fan base, Oregon football fan base, something to look forward to on a pretty much weekly basis.
I am very glad you mentioned the alumni part because I wanted to ask you about that as well. This is very focused on bringing a highlight to some alumnus players. What players are currently kind of in the mix to be on the show, if you're able to say any?
You never let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. Never let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. We got some things in the mix. We're going to hear from some guys and update about some guys I believe the fan base would be glad to hear about and possibly hear from.
And this is Oregon's first season in the Big Ten. It's going to be a big one. What is your perspective on this team kind of going into this season? Fall camp recently wrapped up. What's your thoughts on this squad?
Listen, I haven't been this excited about Oregon football probably since I was playing Oregon football. You can take this back to the Chip Kelly days when he took over. I'm extremely excited about what Coach Lanning has done in that coaching staff, the team that they have pieced together. I believe this is arguably one of the most talented teams in Oregon history. If you go throughout the history of teams that have come through that campus, I believe this is arguably probably the most talented team that Oregon has ever seen. And not just one or two deep. This team is stacked with depth, and that's something that Oregon has never really had. So for them to be making that transition into the Big Ten and have the type of this was a team that was being built for the Big Ten before this move was made. If you look at the stature of these guys, the size, these guys are huge. I was at the spring game and I'm on the sideline. I'm like, we never had guys that were this big. We might have had a couple, a Deion Jordan, a Kyle Long, a couple guys here and there, but collectively, this team is huge. This is a Big Ten football team. So I'm extremely excited about this season. I think it's going to be a special one. I don't mind putting pressure on the team. I have them winning the Natty this year. The way this team is built, the depth that this team has, I think it's very important to have depth when you're trying to make a championship run. And Dan has done that. He has built this team for success and built it for success right now. I'm excited about the move. I love the move. I hate that the Pac went away, but I love that we're in the Big Ten and we can go anywhere else.
Oregon is playing Ohio State on October 12th in Eugene, and someone that you have played under is going to be the offensive coordinator for Ohio State. That is Chip Kelly. What are your thoughts on that upcoming matchup, given that Oregon will be playing against your former head coach at offensive?
I love it. Anytime Chip's legacy is solidified at Oregon. What he did at Oregon in the time frame that he did it had never been done before. The amount of games that he won, how the fashion in which Chip is, he is an Oregon legend. So I expect Chip to go out there and beat Chip. I think he's in a spot to where he has a level of talent around him that he can now put in place like he's accustomed to doing. I expect big things from Chip, but I also expect them to lose when they play in Eugene.
I want to talk about your 3 Super Bowl rings with the Eagles, the Pats, and the Bucks. Did you know that you are actually tied for the Duck with the most Super Bowl rings? It's about a 5-way tie right now between you, LeGarrette Blount, Derek Lavelle, Patrick Chung, and Michael Walter. What is your kind of feelings about that?
It's great company to be in. I didn't know where I was in the line of rings. I knew LeGarrette, I knew Pat, but it's great company to be in, and it's a blessing. God is good. I say this all the time. when it comes to my career in general, but in the NFL, your best movie director couldn't have wrote the script for my life when it comes to playing. This is what God did. God positioned me. God put me in place. I had to do the work. Don't get me wrong, but to give any acknowledgement anywhere else, I would be disrespecting my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. It's all Him. It's what He has placed me in positions. He's placed me around the right people. He's opened doors when those doors were closed. He said no when I thought it should have been yes, and He said yes when it should have been no. So he qualifies the people that most disqualify, and that's what He's done for me. So all that goes to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
100%. And I also wanted to ask you, because on X a couple days ago, I saw yourself and another running back legend for Oregon, LaMichael James, talking about that concussion that you suffered during Wazoo in 2010. And you two are always kind of chatting back and forth on X, on social media. I love to see it. So my first question is, do you get discounts at Killer Burger? And second, can you tell me more about your relationship with you and LaMichael? Do you guys still keep up, still chat?
Yeah, we still chat, but when he's there, I get a discount. So that's something me and Mike got to talk about. We got to talk about that. But our relationship with Mike is my brother. And our darkest days that we had down in Eugene, we were there for each other. With that concussion, I lived with LaMichael probably about 2 weeks after I got released from the hospital because I couldn't live by myself. That's my brother. I love him. He holds a special place in my heart, and I'm forever grateful for what he was to me and what he is to me. So, that's my guy. That's my brother.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. That was one of my favorite things when I started watching the Ducks. One of my favorite things was you and LaMichael's brotherhood. That was amazing to always see.
It's crazy how it developed. I just said it's crazy how it developed because at the time, we were complete polar opposites.
Really? How so?
Personality-wise, I was an extrovert. Mike is an introvert, so I was more talkative. I was more around people. Mike was like, no, I need to be by myself and who I desire to be around. We're just completely different, but we connected when we were freshmen down at Barnhart. Shout out to Barnhart. We just connected and it blossomed a beautiful friendship.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Barnhart. I was an Earl. You guys had it a lot better, for sure, for sure.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
And tell me more about the relationship you and Jonathan Stewart have to come together and be able to make this podcast, because you guys did have some overlapping time with the Panthers. So can you speak to that relationship?
Well, I got to take you back to when I went to my official visit at Eugene. This was after they had played Cal. So it's after the game. Dennis Dixon was my host. Not Dennis Dixon, I'm sorry, Ed Dixon. Ed was my host, and so he takes me over to Dennis Dixon's house. And so we're there, and Jay Stu walks in. Now, mind you, Jay Stu is built like an action figure.
A freak of nature. He's huge, man.
Chisel, Greek god, okay? And he walks in. He has on this, I want to say it's a straw hat, no shirt on, a backpack, and some big baggy jeans. He walks up to me, looks me in my face and goes, so you think you're coming to take my spot, huh? I looked, I said, well, if you're here, yeah. And so that kind of started it there. And then we kind of kept in contact a little bit as time went on. But when I got drafted to Carolina, he was one of the first guys to reach out to me. Reach out to me, hey, when you get here, give me a call, make sure you're good. I'm like, okay. And so I get there, and he was the big brother that I needed, along with D'Angelo Williams and Mike Tolbert and a few other guys, Steve Smith. But I spent a lot of time with Stu. We spent a lot of time together. I spent more time at his house than I did my own during my time in Carolina. After practice, I'm going over to his house. I'm sitting down. Stu loves music. He produces music. So after practice, I'm going to his house, sitting in the studio with him while he's, working on his craft, producing beats. We're going out together. We're partying together. We're doing that. We're literally doing everything together after the season. We're going on trips together. It was probably about 10, 11 of us, but we go on these trips together. So we spent a lot of time together, really got to know each other, really got to connect. And again, one of those guys is just pure at heart, and really means well. And if he's for you, he's for you. And Stu has been for me since the beginning. That's my guy. Stu taught me a pass protection that I couldn't get in the classroom in the middle of a club. So he made everybody. We were at this place called Stash House, and Stu said, "You need help with this." It was key protection, what they call it.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, "Yeah, I do." He made everybody that was around us put their drinks down on the table and said, "Don't touch them." He positioned them, formed a defense, and taught me this pass protection. But that's just who Stu is. So we have a great relationship. We talk trash to each other. We love on each other. It's just a brotherhood. It's one of those friendships that'll last a lifetime.
That is amazing. I love that. Rep doing reps in the club. I love you love to see it.
Absolutely. Listen,
That's
hard work
amazing.
pays off. Okay, no days off.
Absolutely, no days off for sure. And right now in the running back room for Oregon, there's some heated competition. I mean, the running back room is maxed out. They've got 8 guys right now competing for depth chart spots. Jordan James, Noah Whittington, Jay Harris, and Jaden Lamar, all big names coming out. Since you were a guest coach at the spring game, do you have any comments currently on that running back competition going into this season?
I love the room. I love the room. You know, Mr. James is phenomenal. Watching him in that spring game, he's a powerhouse. He's a short guy, huge legs, and when he hits you, you feel him. Whenever there's contact, I love that he's a north and south guy. He's a one-cut guy. He's not going to play around, not going to dance around. He's going to get you the yards that he needs. But I am extremely excited about Jay. That is a guy. He's a huge guy. I think the scouting report says he's 215. I think that's a lie, straight from the pit of hell. He has to be at least 225, 230. Huge guy, but when you watch this guy move and you watch his ability, the cuts that he makes, the footwork, he's agile, he's smooth. I think he has the potential to be a very special back given the opportunity. And he's another guy. In that spring game, I watched him stiff arm a guy and throw that kid to the ground like he was a rag doll. And that excited me. I'm like, that's okay. All right. He's a guy that's going to take it to you. So I'm extremely excited about him. High on him. I'm very high. He reminds me of Legary. I would put that would be his comp, I would say. But he's a special guy, extremely special, extremely special. And I really hope that he gets an opportunity this year to really show what he can do. I watched film on him back when Locke was there. Locke sent me the film. I was like, hey, check this guy out. Contact balance, physicality, speed, vision, can catch. He has it all. He has it all. I'm really high on Jay. Really high on Jay. I
I
think you can tell.
I love it. I could tell. I could tell. And I
Yeah.
also wanted to ask you for this podcast, is there a Duck alumnus or a current Duck that is your kind of goal guest? Who is your holy grail of a guest to have on the podcast?
Um, I don't know. I have to really think about that. Because I'm biased, I'm biased to the guys that I was really close with. What would be cool? To get all the D boys together. If we could get Walt, we could get Pat, we could get Jay Bird, we could get TJ, Titus. If we could get all those group of guys, Anthony Guild and all, I think that would be a great show. I really do. Get all the D boys together. That would be pretty amazing.
Perfect. Amazing. And I also wanted to ask you kind of what has been the biggest change that you've seen overall as a Duck alumni from when you played to this current program, if you will, now?
The biggest change has been Dan Lennon, what he brings, who he is as a man. I mean, the guys that have come before him, uh, it's night and day. Dan is a man of his word. He honors his word. Uh, he welcomes the alumni back, the culture that he's building. When you have a guy like that at the controls, your program is destined for greatness. Dan is a man's man. I love Dan Lanning. I love who he is for those kids. I love what he is for those kids. But that's the biggest difference that I've seen. Is Dan Lanning, it's his energy, it's his intent, it's his heart, it's his commitment. Um, we had a great conversation and he kind of, gives you insight to who he is. So Dan Lanning is the biggest change to that program. He doesn't separate. He brings everybody together, past, present, and future. He makes everybody in the building feel like they belong and feel like they're a part of it. And that's what you need from a guy that's running your team.
And my final question for you is, it seems like Dan is in this podcast, in the ways that he's bringing in guest coaches for the spring game, in the ways that during fall camp, he has alumni call in or speak to the guys. It seems like he really is pretty in tune with the alumni network for Oregon. Can you speak to that, kind of how that change has been, bringing in a bunch more alumni to really be there for the guys?
Well, I'll go back to when I played. It was rare that we seen guys. It was rare that guys were there. I don't know whether it was they just weren't coming around or they didn't feel welcome. But as a player, I remember when Oregon played in the national championship against Ohio State. I think it was 2015. Ted Ginn was a guy that I had played with in Carolina, which was another great human being. We were all together, and I'm with about 9 or 10 Ohio State guys. And they're like, where you guys sitting? Oh, all of us are on the field. I'm like, on the field? I'm like, we in the stands. And so when you look at the different cultures at different schools and how they embrace their alumni, that was a missing piece for Oregon. And so with Dan welcoming everybody back, that gives those guys an opportunity to see guys that have come there, been there, have gone through what they've gone through, have done what they're trying to do and will do. And it makes guys accessible and makes guys hands-on that have played at the next level, to where I can stop, I can ask a question, I can see what it's like. It excites guys. It's a level of excitement to look to. Oh, that's one of the greats right there. Okay, that's who the coaches be talking about. That's whose name I see. So it brings everything together, and it's super dope that Dan has done that. And when you talk about really welcoming, open door policy, that is Dan Lanning when it comes to the alumni. When I was coming out for the spring game, I shot him a text the day before I got there. If you got time, I'll let her come talk to you. I'll see you tomorrow morning. But now, if I text Dan now, I'm gonna get a text back as soon as he can. If I call Dan, Dan is gonna call me back or he's gonna answer. So he's a great guy. He's a great guy, like I said, who's welcomed the past, he's welcoming the past to unite it with the present, and will continue to do so for the future. So shout out to Dan Lanning.
So Kenyon, where can people watch you and Jay Stu's podcast?
So they can watch it Apple, Spotify, YouTube at Ducks of a Feather Podcast. Tune in, check it out. You guys will love it. We love it. We hope we give you something that you guys want to continue to come back to. But that's where you can find it at.
Incredible 3-time Super Bowl champ and running back alumnus for the University of Oregon icon, Kenjon Barner. Thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Of course.